You're listening to the Buyer's Mind Podcast, a podcast for internet marketers and business owners covering topics like psychology, sales, persuasion, and so on. Revealing what makes people buy. Here's your host, Juho Tunkelo.
Okay, welcome to the Buyer's Mind Podcast. I'm Juho Tunkelo, your host, and today we're going to be talking with James Schramko, a well-known Australian marketer who runs a big SEO operation as well as his online business coaching communities, which I'm part of. And I recently went into his event in lovely Manly, Sydney, and I'm kind of warm and fuzzy from that even a few weeks later. So welcome, James.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and also for traveling all the way over here for the event.
Yeah, it was well worth it. Well, right off the bat, I'm curious, can you tell people why you've chosen a business model that relies on selling to people who already know you more or less? I think you said that 90% of your sales come from existing customers. That's a very different approach to, I guess, most others, where people obsess over getting more traffic, more opt-ins, new customers all the time. That has to slant the marketing a bit as well. Would you agree?
I do agree. I think it makes, I think it's actually easier. That's one thing. But it also gives you constant income. You have a very predictable business model, which means that you can plan for expenses. You can commit to longer range of sort of planning. For example, I'm just rebooked my event for next year. So 1 year out, I can be very confident that going back to my existing customers, I could sell tickets to the event from my existing customer base. So having a great catchment or database of people who know you, like you, trust you, and can continue to buy recurring solutions from you is just a really nice way to do business, instead of always having to find the next sale and always hunting, and you know, have peaks and troughs and burning a lot of energy with the uncertainty of knowing what's going to happen next month. And having worked in almost a commission-only type environment through to being a business owner with multiple income streams and recurring income, I can tell you which one helps you sleep better at night.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, every time that I've had a recurring setup, it's just easier on the nerves. But what I'm really curious about is I've known you for some time and seen your business evolve. Did you design your business this way, or has it evolved over time? Was it different in the beginning? Can somebody build a business starting out this way, or do you have to sort of get through some stages and end up where you are now?
I think you can set about creating a recurring subscription business from day one, and it's putting some thought and effort into the way that you can package things in a recurring method. There's different types of business models. A good resource on that is a book called The Automatic Customer by John Warillo. And when I was talking to him on a podcast recently, he mentioned just a few of the business models. But for service businesses, one of the common ones is to package up or bundle services that people are going to be using on an ongoing basis. Things like SEO has been a good one for us, because you don't just go out and do one round of SEO. That doesn't usually get you much of a result. It's something you want to keep doing, like a dripping tap.
Right.
And same for content marketing. Also for larger customers, things like copywriting is going to be an ongoing need in their business. They're going to need website pages. They'll have campaigns where they want email series, landing pages, and print material to support it. So they'll basically continue to buy from you, and what you try and do is work out a way that you can bundle up a package and say, hey, you're going to be using our services continuously. Why don't we just put you on a retainer so that we're always available for you, and make sure that it looks like great value for them. They understand that it's easier for them to manage their billing and that you're always there for them. And it's also good value for you, because you can have multiple customers, and then you can work on systemizing things and subletting areas if you need to, or if you can, or building up a team to take care of fulfillment. But I think you can start out from scratch. I didn't, but it was only just a learning process of working out that selling recurring solutions was far more profitable because there are actually different yields for different activities, and selling something recurring actually gets you a much higher value per customer than a one-time purchase, as it turns out.
Yeah, very much. And what I find in my business over the years, I started doing copywriting services maybe about 10 years ago, and it was the usual experience of feast or famine. You get a big project and then nothing for a while, and it's a common experience. And over the years, I learned to sort of package those services, but also what I found that my, let's say, smartest clients, what they really wanted was not to just get the copy, but to have somebody stay on for at least a few months and tweak their whole marketing, and because it's not just a copy and not just one piece. And so the more I look into this, the more I see these opportunities for recurring services. Do you think it's mainly a mental limitation that people insist that, well, you can't do it this way, and it's always been done a certain way?
I do think so. I think that for many industries, recurring will actually work even if you don't see it how it is. But there's so many examples. What you're talking about there with your copy could simply be a setup fee and then a recurring maintenance program where you refine and test. So if you could actually explain to a customer the value in continually testing their material and show them how they make so much more profit for such a little investment, because they've got the same person who put all the copy together, they've got context, they've got relevance, they've got experience. It's very efficient for them. Again, there's examples of all sorts of businesses where they traditionally don't have a recurring model, but they actually get it put in there. John Murillo was talking about the florist who puts people on a recurring flower subscription. They keep sending flowers because they have this consistent packaging. Then they can go direct to the growers instead of having to just buy enough to cover their orders that's spiking up and down. Now they can go and get better deals, and they can build in more profit margin and have a more predictable service.
Yeah. And one of the things that really stayed with me from your event was hearing from James Reynolds, who is I understand he's basically reselling your SEO services in Dubai, and the way he was packaging services that he didn't even basically create himself, and he was very successful at it, and I imagine you have many others doing the same. So I was just wondering if started developing this thought that maybe, especially on the side of conversion optimization, it would be possible to grow that. How did it happen for you and your SEO business? You have a big team now, but how did you go about creating that?
In the beginning, it was just me learning about SEO and implementing it on my own sites. And then I got some referrals from people who said, hey, you should speak to this guy. James knows about SEO. And I got a client, and then I got another client, and then I realized, well, hang on, I'm going to run out of capacity. I've only got a couple of 100 hours a month. So I started hunting around for a contractor to actually fulfill. And from screening a few suppliers, I found one that was pretty good. They had a good track record. They were supplying other people who I'd been aware of. And I started out that way, and I scaled that business up to a little over $500,000 in sales. And then I actually got other people selling it too. I actually had affiliates selling it. So other people sold it, other people supplied it, and I was just there in the middle collecting a profit from the whole machine and building up an asset. Then over time, I really wanted to improve the quality of the core deliverable. So I actually got my team who was working on my own websites to take over some of the SEO packages. And the fact is, they were just significantly better. They were faster, they were more efficient, they were much smarter and getting better results. So I just moved all of the business across, and we quickly scaled past $1 million in SEO sales a year. just from our own team supplying, and we've had that team in place now for a good 5 years straight, and we're very, very stable, consistent supplier in what has been a peaky, rough, difficult market, causing most of our competitors to go broke and disappear. And there's a number of factors that we can put this down to, but it is about having good quality of supply. If you can build on good quality of supply, then you also have a resource that other people will use, and that's how the reselling thing came into it. Other people have thought, well, you know what, I don't want to go and hire a team, train a team, teach them about SEO, monitor them, do research and development. You know, it's a difficult market to be in. So while there's vendors like me, wholesale vendors supplying that solid base, they can just build on top of that. They build their own business. They have the customer relationship. They invoice the customer, and then they just pay us to deliver. And if you have a television in your house, there's a very good chance that the screen, all these LCDs and LEDs, they probably come from just one or two suppliers in the world.
Right, sure.
And they get rebranded with, brands on them, maybe Sony or Sharp or Kenwood or whatever. The fact is, even your Apple phone or the car that you have has probably got components from a few very centralized suppliers. Cars are a good example. The tires come from Michelin or Pirelli or Bridgestone. The electricals, a lot of it comes from Bosch, but they get all packaged up and then resold as a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW.
Yeah, I drive an Audi and I get lip from people just asking, what do you want to pay more? Just buy a Volkswagen, but that's what it is, yeah.
Well, similar company, I guess, and a great vehicle for Europe.
Yeah. It's a very interesting topic because at least here in Europe you don't see that kind of development very often. It seems to be like, well, you start a company, you get a lot of capital and you get high risk and you build out the team and it seems to be like the way you've gone about creating this business is a very sort of agile one and considering that the SEO market isn't easy to service. I've seen that from a couple of friends' companies as well, and it's very interesting to follow.
Well, it's basically we're in a market where you don't need $1 startup capital. Really, you can be self-funded from day one. You get a customer to give you payment, and from that payment, and this is literally how I started my business. You go and buy your first laptop. Mm-hmm. And that's, your first reinvestment of capital. And then from then on, you just affiliate or resell. And eventually, if you want to do the vertical market integration, you take over supply yourself. But it's not for everyone. It does require a certain skill set to run your own team or have your own product. It is so easy to sell other people's products or services or just be the glove over someone else's hand. Yeah. The customers dealing with the glove, they can't see underneath or inside, and they don't need to know. They don't want to know. You're responsible for their experience and delivering value, and it's up to you to choose your suppliers wisely and to deliver the best value possible.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people who start a new business online and they are sort of in love with their idea of, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and it's going to be based on all my experience, and in a way that's right, but you can also sort of trip up because it's all about you and not building a system like that.
Yes, I like to work where there's demand in the market. I just want a hungry crowd, and often, as it was in the beginning, it was me just serving my own requirements. I needed to do SEO for my own business. Yeah, I needed software to build websites. I ended up being an affiliate of that software. The software started to not be competitive, so I stopped promoting that and started building websites, and then ended up with a web development team, which our customers resell as well. So going through just looking after my own needs first and then replicating that for others, knowing that other people are going through the same challenges that I had, I was able to then roll that out as that's your case study, your proof of concept. And now you can have people happily investing because you can deliver.
Yeah. on the other side of your business, which is basically online business coaching, you have a membership site basically called Superfast Business, and your high-end coaching program Silver Circle. How did those go about? Was it based on, well, you saw a need and you just filled it, or how did it happen for you?
Exact same process, actually. The first one, the coaching community, I was a member of other forums, and I was quite active in those, and then I started promoting one of them as an affiliate. And my main concern with it was that I'd sell the membership and then people would cancel fairly quickly. And the problem was that the membership owners had set it up, made all this money, and then disappeared. And it's a common concern that you'll find with communities. It's usually the community founder sets it all up and then is absent. It happens in most communities that I've ever joined. You never hear from the owner or the founder, and that's one of the reasons you're joining. It's generally you're joining because you want content and you want coaching, and also you get community, but you want access to the founder. That's why you joined that. So that was a big problem. I wrote down a list of all the things I didn't like about the communities, and then I switched my marketing efforts from promoting someone else's community to just promoting my own community. And that was the first iteration of that was called Superfast Results, and it was a partnership, and it went really well. And the current iteration is the most profitable, best one that I've ever had, because it's got the collective of all of my live event recordings and any number of other resources in there. So I've been working on that business model for maybe 6 or 7 years. The higher level one was really just people coming to me wanting more access. And the first iteration was me putting a PayPal button on my site, a recurring PayPal button. It was $700 a month, and people could just buy me to help them on their business, just one-on-one.
Okay.
So someone actually came along and purchased it, and I helped that person. He added $250 a day to his income fairly quickly. So it was a good investment for him. And then I had a few more customers, and then I sort of got this idea that I could probably leverage myself a little better and help more people without having to pay as much. And I did some group coaching, and I thought I'd coach 10 people at $599 a month. But I had enough people sign up to have 2 groups of 10. I had 20 people. And then after 3 months, when I resold that, I had 4 groups of 10 people. I had 40 people wanted to join. And the final iteration was, okay, let's put them all in one place so they can cross-sell with each other and refer each other and have a higher level. And that's how I ended up with the current version of Silver Circle. It's basically a small community of, there's up to 40 people at times, high level, and they basically get a little bit more access to me, more frequent meetings, and they're in there with the similarly high caliber people. And that program, it's almost strikingly similar, actually, in terms of revenue and profit and effective hourly rate to the smaller community. But when you combine them together, the info business has got a high and a low access point, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's interesting. Seems to work well for you. So what would you say to someone who is sort of kind of bought into this current thinking of aggressive selling, product launch after product launch, armies of affiliates and so on? If somebody listening to this is finding this sort of approach more appealing, what would you say to them? What should they start doing, and what should they stop doing?
Right. So first thing is to really identify what a product launch is. It's a marketing tool as a promotion, really. It's just a promotion. It's not a business model. And if you want evidence of it, go and look at the people who run that segment of the industry, and they have a pretty broken model. Every year for the last 10 years, they have to wheel out the big launch. If they don't have a big launch, they don't get a payday, and they have all this stress and strain on their business. They have refunds. They have affiliate wrangling they have to do. They physically get sick. You hardly ever find out about a launch where the principal person behind it hasn't been run off their feet, exhausted. They're telling you about their heart palpitations and how little sleep they got. Yeah. I don't get it. I don't understand why this is championed or looked up upon. The bottom line is it's a dumb model if that's all you're doing. If you have a product or service, it's okay to have launches or promotions from time to time. I do a promotion of my own live event once a year. But when I say promotion, and as you know from the case studies, it's very low effort and exertion on my behalf, but it is strategic and it is a time-limited once-a-year launch. With Silver Circle, occasionally I open it up, maybe every year, every 6 months or 18 months, depending on how full it is or who's in it. I haven't opened it for 7 or 8 months now. So every now and then I open it, but I would call that more of a release. So decide what sort of business model you like. Hopefully you've picked up on the big hint that recurring is the way to go. And then definitely you can launch it to start with, but once you've got it launched, spend more effort focused on the customers who you have sold than trying to get new ones. That's my tip. Because if you have good product, you will automatically get referrals. You'll have byproducts that you can generate for content marketing just from doing the work of fulfillment. You'll be able to extract podcasts, you'll be able to extract slideshows, you'll be able to extract video footage and put it back out there to the public with your content marketing and bring in more members organically.
Yeah. It seems to me like a lot of people treat memberships and the recurring model as something of an afterthought. The whole term continuity seems to sort of denote that, well, we can stretch this out a little bit, and after a while people realize that you're not getting a whole lot of value.
Yeah, and they talk about 3 months retention as being the industry standard, and $1 per email address per month is what you can expect to make. These are nonsense figures for anyone who knows what they're doing. These numbers just are not correct. Continuity doesn't mean just having an auto bill, hoping the customer will forget they're getting billed, and then not delivering anything. And it's so common. People obsess about how much stuff do I have to put into my subscription membership to be able to sell it, and then how little effort or how little involvement can I have in it once it's been released. That seems to be the issue, is that they don't actually know what a continuity program is supposed to do, and then they definitely have differing ideas about what's required to keep your churn rate down. But if you sell one-time products, you have 100% churn rate.
True.
So an action step would be to just see what you're already selling and to see if there's a way that you can repackage it as a recurring business. So if you are already selling something as a one-time product, have a look at how you might restructure that to set it up as a multiple payment or multiple subscription, and it could be monthly, quarterly, annual. And then you would just come up with the offer of how you would communicate that to the marketplace, and then you would set up systems of helping customers understand they're getting value. That's the way that you keep them. There could be things like newsletters, it could be live training, it could be a gift, it could be some kind of interaction that lets people know they're getting a result. It could be a report. That's a good one for most service businesses. You can send a report saying, here's what we did, here's where you were before, here's where you are now, progress is good, or here's your analytics, here's your increased sales. If you can tie a specific result to somebody's subscription and they can see the value in it, they won't leave.
Yeah, that's a great list of things to do. Anybody can basically do it. Okay, maybe a final question about. I've heard you talk about the feedback you get from your prospects and from your clients, and it seems to be that you have a very low refund rate, and you don't get a lot of this pushback. And what is it about this low pressure content first, and then over to a recurring high value offering? What is it about that apparently does it just works in such a way that people let down their guard, and what is it about that type of marketing that seems to work so well?
Okay, a few factors there. One is, yes, we have around about 1% refund rate across several $1 million a year, and that is pretty reasonable. That's pretty much administration. Just like someone forgot to turn off auto billing and they asked us kindly if we could just refund their payment that they made yesterday because they forgot to let us know. It's all very amicable. We never have disputes or problems. So how do you get to that? Because that would be considered like outrageously good in our industry, where some marketers think 50% is acceptable, which I think they got a problem with the product. So one is start with a good product. You've got to have a good product, and that means step two would be making sure that the expectation around the product can be met. And as you know, as a copywriter, sometimes there's a bit of a game where the copy sounds so amazing, we want to buy something, and then we get a little bit let down when the product's not all that we thought it. When we can't make $10 million within 5 minutes with auto software, we get frustrated. So we have to really make sure that our offer is setting an expectation that we can actually exceed. So I would say that I undersell my material. There would be an argument that says I could sell more and have a higher refund rate and still have a net higher profit. But I don't think that this is going to satisfy one of my criteria, and that is that I want to build a reputation of integrity. And integrity is a slow game. It's slow to build up integrity in terms of the market perception, and it's very fast to lose integrity. If you push people the wrong way, if you abuse the trust of someone giving you their email address, if you interrogate people too much, or you don't give them usability options that suit them. For example, I ask people if they'd rather receive an email weekly instead of every few days. I'm trying to just adjust to and synchronize to the way that they'd like to deal with my organization, and then the way that we actually deal with them. And I'm in this for the long haul. In some cases, someone will be on my email list and watch my podcast or listen to me for a year or two and then make a purchase. It might take time. And I'm using one of the techniques that I learnt about from selling Mercedes-Benz, and that's the demonstration. I'm often letting people sample content that is a representative of what the paid stuff is. So I'll give them half a recording from my event, or I'll give them an 8-minute audio podcast on my top tips that have been gleaned from talking to hundreds of customers. And someone might listen to that for 8 minutes and think, wow, okay, I'm connecting with this guy. There's no BS. This is direct. It's matter of fact. I resonate with this. This is different to what everyone else is doing. There's no hype, no cheese, no fluff, no filler, no garbage. Where do I sign up? And that's what happens. And as long as you can deliver on your promises and you're consistent with your marketing, and you are if you have a longer time frame, it's really going to help. If you're not in a hurry to make $100,000 this week, I'm sure you could make it over the next year with a strategic effort of content marketing, a recurring subscription product, and being an ethical marketer.
Yeah, it's interesting that your own journey comes from selling cars, and that's I guess traditionally the perception is that that would be a somewhat of a high pressure situation, but you've taken it into a very different direction.
It is a pressure cooker type environment, and it was predominantly commission based. So if you didn't sell, you didn't eat. And I was exceptionally good at selling cars, not because I was the best closer or I was selling the highest bonus stock. It was the opposite. It was because I investigated someone's situation properly, and I took time to understand their requirements. I wanted to know what they had now and what caused them to come into the dealership. What would they like to change about their car? And that would help me understand the challenges. And someone might say, well, we're having a baby, and this two-seater doesn't fit our baby. So now, okay, I'm really starting to get a feel for the challenge. So before I go rushing in with a better version of the two-seater that they drove in, and now we might be talking about more of a utility vehicle because we have a different need. So I take more time understanding the customer's challenge and really probing for where they're feeling discomfort, and then I'd solve it and soothe them and make a recommendation that they could see made sense. And even though it mightn't be the highest paying commission, or it mightn't have been the car that the boss needed us to sell that week, it was the vehicle that would allow that customer to come back and see me again in 2 years' time when it was time to change cars, because I didn't burn them and I didn't abuse their trust.
Yeah, that's an interesting parallel in my work on the copywriting side. Is at least the typically a good 50% of the work that I do is research, and if you don't do the research, then you're just you don't know what you're doing. So
Well, you're a pusher.
yeah,
If you don't do the research, you're a pusher. You know, some people get a copy template and they want to just bang it out over every customer like they've got this copy hammer and
Right.
and they think everything's a nail.
yeah,
And they're not the great copywriters because they're not really getting into it. But if you read the greats, like the Gary Halberts, etc., you'll know how much he put into observation
Yeah.
and looking for the story, the hook, behind the scenes. And
yeah,
it was exactly the same for motor vehicles. And it is fair to say that in pretty much every industry, there's the corrupt, the crooked, the bad practitioners, whether it's malpractice doctors, whether it's politicians. And what I found, when you go business to business, there's just as many bandits, whether they're conference salespeople or stationery suppliers. There's terrible salespeople and there's good suppliers, and it's our job to do the due diligence. And customers are much smarter than most people would expect, and they can tell if someone's getting a little bit too excited or a little bit sneaky with the terms and conditions. And when they get caught, then there's no business going to be done in the future with that person. It's game over, and it doesn't help a recurring model much at all. So basically treat customers as if you're going to be dealing with them for the next 10 years, and then you'll start to see results.
Yeah. That's I guess a lot of marketers and salespeople aren't really known for their patience, but the best ones are, because if you look at your customer that comes in the door and don't just see someone who's able to open their wallet for you for 10 seconds, but to look at the whole.
Look at someone who's got a challenge, who's got a problem, and they've come to you for help.
Mm-hmm.
Don't abuse that privilege and power. Help them, sincerely help them with their problem and challenge, and solve it with them. And it'll be so obvious to them that they'll be appreciative and very thankful to be able to invest in themselves via you. And I say that very deliberately.
Yeah.
They're only investing in themselves. They're not supporting you as a charity. They don't owe you anything. They're operating from a selfish level of wanting their own problem solved. So if you can operate from their level, you're set.
Yes, exactly. Well, I think I've taken up enough of your time. I thank you for your great insights, and you've certainly given me a lot of food for thought as to how to develop recurring revenue streams in my business, and I think every listener has got a lot of a lot of thinking to do.
Fantastic.
So where can people go to learn more about you and what you do?
Well, I'm over at superfastbusiness.com, and I have plenty of podcasts there on topics like recurring subscription model, and there is a course there called Own the Race Course, which is how I do my content marketing to feed that recurring business, and it's well worth having a look.
All right, fantastic. Okay, thank you for your time, and we'll talk again sometime.
Thanks, Yuho.
Thank you.